Good afternoon, Anna Lipchak. It's so wonderful to have you here, and it's so wonderful to have all our members join us today for this incredible webinar, which is how to set huge goals for your clients. I'm Mariana Ivansoff, and I joined AusActive in August last year. So I am the new Policy and Advocacy Officer. I'm a keen runner, which is why I'm especially excited to introduce Anna to talk about the important role of an exercise and fitness coach. And she'll be able to tell you how you can help your clients set and achieve really huge goals. Anna is a dynamic and motivational fitness coach with 17 years of experience in the industry. She's the proud owner of 2 fitness businesses, His and Her Time Health and Fitness, where she trains clients primarily in outdoor group settings. And she also offers online marathon programs for beginners. And through her Adventure Time Travel, it's a boutique marathon travel company that specializes in providing premium quality events and taking people around the world to some of the most iconic marathon locations. Adventure Time Travel is an approved international travel operator and one of only a handful of companies in Australia that can guarantee entry into some of the biggest marathons in the world without the need to qualify. Anna is incredible. She has run over 30 marathons and over 100 half marathons. So she'll be sharing her insights on how she has coached many people to run marathons, some of whom have never actually even run before. We're also going to delve into the documentary, which Anna conceived and co-produced. This is called I Am Not a Runner. And this tells a story of 5 ordinary Australian women. When I say ordinary, it's people like you and I who are actually very extraordinary, and you will see that when we show a trailer of the film. We'll show the trailer shortly. So Anna coached these women to take on the 2018 New York City Marathon. This documentary won the award for Best Sport Film and Best Motivational Movie at the New York International Film Awards, and it's a must-watch if you haven't already seen it. Currently, it's on SBS On Demand, so you can watch it. It's a film that will have you laughing, crying, and feeling overwhelmingly inspired by the incredible achievements of these women, which goes way beyond just training and running a marathon. I absolutely love this film, and I am completely in awe of what Anna helped these women achieve, which is what we're going to talk about to Anna today. So we're just going to show a trailer so we can just see what we'll be referring to today. Need to hear the sound. We might just start that again once it's come to the end. We don't have the sound up, so we'll have the sound turned up. Okay, won't be a moment. We'll have the sound turned up, and then we'll show the trailer again. Whilst that is getting started, we might go to our first question. Anna, I have run marathons before, and they are really hard. So as a coach, how do you convince someone that they should train for a marathon?
Well, firstly, I want to say thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited to be here to speak to everyone and share the journey, and thank you for being interested and thank you for supporting it from AusActive. So how do you coach someone and how do you convince somebody? So just like anything in life, you really can't convince anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. So I present opportunities to people, I encourage, I believe, and I support people. But I certainly don't convince, because convincing someone is a disaster for failure. So basically, I'd be setting someone up for failure if I convince them to do it. They have to want to do it. So I I learned very early on when I started my first company, His and Her Time Outdoor Fitness in 2005. This sort of lesson, first of all, people came to me at His and Her Time and they wanted to lose weight. And that's the only thing they were like wanting to do. And I really wanted to change this. And I thought about how can I sort of divert that want to just look at the scales. And they got quite despondent because often they were putting on weight because they were eating more carbs, because they were exercising more. So these were kind of beginner kind of people. And I thought, right, what if I diverted them to goals? So physical goals, something that they could celebrate and explore. So together we, as a team, because I train people outdoors, we started challenging each other to enter community events. And this grew and grew, and we started celebrating more, and people became more confident about themselves. And in turn, they started losing weight and started feeling better about themselves. But I wasn't convincing them to go and run these things. I was just challenging them and offering these opportunities. But I was leading from the front. So I was doing it too. And there was no failure because we didn't have any times in mind. We didn't care if we walked. We just wanted to be there together to celebrate. And I guess this is how my second business came about, which was Adventure Time Travel, because people were really enjoying, seeing their achievements and achieving different things as they went along. So we started, I started taking them to international events. And one of the first events I did was the Vanuatu Round Island Relay, was for a team of 10 people. So we took two teams of 10 and they were all people of all ages. I didn't convince any of them to come. They all wanted to be there. They supported each other. There was no fear of failure because we didn't care if people were walking or running or how we did it. In fact, when we got over to Vanuatu, some of them were in bare feet and they were running way faster than us, but we just had so much fun. And it was such an opportunity for us to get away because most of us were over 30, 40, 50. And I guess the feeling of being a part of a team was no longer there. Some of us had been used to being part of a sports team when we were younger, and this provided that opportunity. So I guess the group convinced people, not me. It was the opportunity that was presented. It's leading to people to know what is possible. And I guess that's really what created the movie. I was taking a group of 60 people to the New York Marathon in 2018. Now, this is one group of people that I train in a small little area in Adelaide. So you can imagine 60 people was quite a lot from, let's say, 2-3 suburbs. So it's one council area. So 60 people, all beginners, basically wanting to go to the New York Marathon. So I thought, what can I do to inspire these people? Because it's all about inspiring rather than convincing them and telling them that they can and setting them up for these times. It's just about inspiring them. So I took them to a movie, and this movie, I was hoping that it would be really inspirational. And we were watching this movie, and it was fantastic. There were all these elite athletes, and they were achieving these most amazing things. But I came out of that movie. At that stage, I'd run 20 marathons and, so many half marathons. And some of the people I'd taken had never run anything. In fact, had never run 2 kilometers. And I walked out and thought, oh my God, that wasn't inspiring because these people were so far out of reach, out of the ordinary person, which I was and they were, that it was kind of out our reach. And I really thought, wouldn't it be good to show people, ordinary people, that we can achieve wonderful things. I'd seen it year after 2005, since I'd been training people about how people were achieving things. And not just in running, but in all sorts of events and activities. And I really wanted to share this word with the rest of the world to show, and inspire people. One of the characters, we had 20 characters at the start of this movie, Mariana, that we could have chosen. But one of the characters that was chosen was my mother, and she was 72. And so many people who've now seen the movie had said, oh, if she can do it, I can do it. So that's what, instead of convincing, it's rather showing, giving people the knowledge and the understanding, surrounding them with other people who have the same wants and needs, surrounding them and supporting them. And I think the biggest thing, Mariana, is believing in people. So many people say to me, I only did that marathon because you believed I could. Like, I didn't believe I could, but because you believed I could, I did. Now, that also resonates with me because I also have a coach. I have a coach in all my different areas of my life. And one of them is a coach for me, and he's a mentor. And every time I line up at a start line, I have him in my head too, saying, I believe in you. I know you can do this. And I just have so much trust that I can do it because he does. So that I think is a really big thing as a trainer, is to prepare people and then believe in them and support them. And everyone gets to their start line in a different way. So that's the other thing as a coach. It's not convincing, it's about supporting, listening to their needs, what they need as a person. And a marathon is a really big goal. So it's a really great goal as a coach to have. And I mean, there's other great goals that you can set people. It doesn't have to be a marathon. It can be whatever it is. But if it's a big goal and an international goal, you know that they're committed and they're going to train. So there's really no excuse to get out of it because they're financially invested into it. And as a trainer, it's really great because I know that they are committed to me for the next 12 months as well. So yeah, so it's not convincing, it's showing and leading. And I guess, when I started His and Her Time, I wasn't running marathons. In fact, it was one of my clients who came to me. We were doing a 56-kilometer walk run together. And she said, "Do you think I could run a marathon?" I said, "Oh, yeah, absolutely, you could run a marathon." I knew she could. And she did. And then she convinced me to run the next one with her. And that's how it filtered through, was people wanted a part of what Chantel and I had just experienced. They could see the happiness, the change in our life, and that spread like wildfire, I guess, through my groups. And I guess that's what happens, is you attract like-minded people into your group. So I think that's the other thing as a coach. You don't pretend to be something you're not. I'm not a bodybuilding coach. I'm not. That's not my forte. So I attract people who are like-minded to me. So, and I don't try to be anyone else. And I think that's a really top tip. I've trained other trainers, and they go out and try and replicate me. Now they're not me. They need to be authentic to them. And that's what will convince people, is if you're authentic to you and you have your love and your passion, they'll see that and people want a part of it, or they don't. And you can't convince them, but they'll either want it or they don't. So just be authentic to you.
That's a wonderful answer. And I think people resonate and really connect with that authenticity, and really appreciate that. Something that you mentioned, which was very interesting, is that you do have your own coach, and in many areas of your life. Is that something you would recommend to people listening, that they do? They do seek out a coach that does provide mentorship and coaching for them too.
Totally, yeah. I do bring that into all different areas of my life, because mentors are very important to me. Because as a coach, as a trainer, fitness trainer, we often work by ourselves, and we need other people to inspire us. And I think that's what's great about AusActive too. There's so many different programs and learning programs that we can do. So I'm constantly seeking information, constantly speaking to other trainers. But I also have a coach that can help me, because I certainly don't know everything, and it's really important. I also have health professionals around me that surround me, so I can talk to them about injuries and all sorts of things. Of course, I get my clients to speak directly to them, but it's really nice to have that support behind you as a trainer, to get that knowledge, and be honest with your clients when you can't answer questions. Just say, "I don't know what's going on," but find out that information. But for me, yes, a coach is really, really important. And he keeps me honest to my fitness, because as trainers, as probably most of you agree, when you started as a trainer, I thought I was going to be fit and healthy. But in fact, those times that I was training people were the optimum times to be training myself. So then I had to find my motivation to get out earlier. So when I started running marathons, I had very young kids. They were 2 and 4, I think, and I had to actually get out really early in the morning, at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, to do that, because I was training people at 6. So I still run at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, but I know the reason why I do that, and that's the purpose. But that's by having a coach and someone supporting me behind as well.
That's terrific. And you have really touched on this, but we'd be really interested to know how you set the huge goals, and plan and prepare people, and really help keep that motivation and focus going, because everyone would see their clients go through up and down stages. So how do you really help people maintain that commitment?
Yeah, I do bring on a lot of beginners. Like I love beginners. That's my passion, is beginners, people who haven't necessarily exercised for a long time. So when I started as a trainer, I came back after the birth of my second baby, and I realized how vulnerable women were, particularly at that stage. I had to reset and start again and find my motivation. But how I do it with others is I bring them in, I make them feel comfortable no matter what, where they're at. I try and look for their strengths straight away. And that might not necessarily be physical. It might be something about them, you know, that they are socially great, and I introduce them to others in the group. So finding something that makes them feel good. Then what I do is I try to, because motivation only lasts for so long for anyone, and it depends on your purpose. But, you know, if I find that most people's motivation will wane after a couple of weeks, they come in all excited and they probably do too much in those first few weeks, and that's when they can get injured. So it's a matter of, you know, finding that balance as a coach, but then getting them into a routine. So, okay, sit down with them on one-on-one. So even though I do groups, like I do groups online as well, and I train people in Adventure Time Travel and His and Her Time, but I try and have that one-on-one conversation with them to find out their purpose. And what I really do encourage is that they write down their goals, really strong goals, their reason why they're doing this. Why do they want this goal? Why do they want to be fit? Why do they want to run 10Ks? Why do they want it? Not why do I want it? Why do they want it? So then they find their purpose. So that's really strong. And then what we do from there is create a habit. So for me, running Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturdays is a habit. I just do it. If I don't do it, my whole life's a mess. So I know creating that habit. So creating that routine for them, first of all, and then it becomes this habit. So then they're into that habit. Once they're into the habit, I start dangling carrots. Okay, well, you could do this. What do you want to do this year? So in every session that I have, it's all about goals, and I get them to verbalize their goals with other people within my groups, so that the more they verbalize it, the more accountable they become. So, you know, there's a man that I'm training at the moment. He wants to lose weight, and he verbalized that he wanted to lose weight at the end of last year, and now he's losing weight, and we still talk about his goals, and he's now lost 4 kilos. Other people are talking to him about it. He feels really good about it. So it's that accountability, it's checking in with people. But then it's also about dangling these carrots, and then I try and entice them, and sometimes I get them into these big goals, and then it's working with them through. And as you know, and what you've said, Mariana, there's obstacles that encounter. People always encounter obstacles, and they can knock people for a six, and that's when people become undone. And then you refer them back to their goals. Why is this important to you? What can you find in your life? How can you find to put that routine back in another spot? So people with children, I'll say, look, if they're playing cricket, why don't you go for a run? If you don't have to stand there for the 3 hours, why don't you go off for half an hour? And it's just helping them, because sometimes we think it's so easy, and it is so easy, that we don't do it. So we have to also explain that to our clients. You know, it doesn't even have to be that hard. You know, small steps make big differences over time. So, you know, people can increase their steps just by walking to work or parking their car, you know, all those old things. But we really telling people and supporting them and telling them to repeatedly do things, you know, the routine, repeatedly do things. And that's what we become. So I think that answers your question, Mariana, I hope.
That's a wonderful, really wonderful response. And we are referring to the film. We have had an issue with the sound, so we will pop the link in for everyone to see the trailer themselves at the end. But as I said, we will be referring to it, and please do watch it, because it is absolutely remarkable. It really leads into the next question that I have. In the film, I felt there was quite a heartbreaking moment. A woman, Anne, who is just incredible through her training, she says she doesn't feel good enough. She doesn't feel good enough to run or even achieve anything. And you can see that she's struggling physically, emotional, sort of trauma in that moment. How do you speak to someone who is in that frame of mind, and how do you support them?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because Anne was probably the only brave person to verbalize how she
Okay.
was feeling,
Mhm.
because really, I think most people in the world feel like that. So we've got societal pressures all the time. We've got people that tell us that we're not good enough. We've got media always showing people that they don't look like this and they need to look like this. So I think Anne was really brave in sharing that vulnerability of her. And as I said, we had 20 characters to choose from, but it was that vulnerability of Anne, because she really showed the mental health aspect of how important exercise was to her. So Anne is a single woman, and she lives by herself. And she came out to group training and she was going through these problems, but she was really blossoming as she was interacting with people. So for her, that connection was really important. And as a trainer, it was really, it was sort of something that I could stand back from and see that interaction. I could see how important it was, but I could also see how she genuinely wanted to help other people as well. So it's, understanding different people and how they operate. So Anne was a wonderful person to have in the group. She shared that vulnerability and made it okay for other people to talk about different things. So for her, running meant running forward away from her problems. Because I remember her saying to me, one of my friends said to me, "I'm just running away from all my problems." And I said, actually, she said, "I'm not running away from them. No, I'm not running from them. I'm running away from them." So she was dealing with her own personal life through this. So as a coach, you have to listen to how the needs of each person. So Anne needed different coaching. She didn't need probably as much support from me. She just needed me to help her surround herself with these great people, as compared to Namara Lee, who needed a lot more hand coaching. So I think that's societal pressure we all have. It's interesting, Mariana, because I have run 30 marathons now, and I still get told from some very close people that I'm not a runner. This is where the title came from. People still say to me today, "I'm not a runner," because no, I'm not a professional runner. But the term running means that you just are running. So I actually can run, and I've run 30 marathons, which actually the definition is we are all runners. So, and I think that can actually turn into a real negative. When someone tells you you're not something, you just give up. And it's like a kid, you tell them they're bad or you tell them that they can't do something, they just won't do it anymore. So we can all do things, and Anne certainly can do things. So it's actually, teaching her, showing her, myself every day, telling myself I can do things and setting yourself up not for failure. So setting realistic expectations, I think, is a key to being a trainer. So being really realistic with people, so many people say to me, "Oh, I want to do a 4-hour marathon," and I look at them and say, "Why? What does that mean to you? Do you know what you can do in a marathon?" And they really have no idea. And I said, let's take that back. Let's be really realistic so that they celebrate what they're doing. So there's lots in there, Mariana. But I think the main thing is that we all have that voice, and Jodie talks about that voice in the movie too. It's those negative voices that people have in their head, and it's working with people about how to quieten that negative voice. How do you quieten that voice? How do you tell it to go away, that you can do something? And I guess that's part of changing someone's mindset as a coach. It is a big mindset. So many people come to me and they've never exercised in the last 20, 30 years. It's really nerve-wracking. And I do groups and they don't want to be there. Like Namara Lee said, "I don't want to be here. I can't get away now." But it's nurturing it, finding their strengths and understanding that we all are. I say to myself sometimes during the day too, "I'm not good enough. Like, what am I doing? Why am I on this right now?" Like it's this constant questioning we have ourselves. So it's believing in yourself, believing in others, and spreading that belief. And I think talking positively to people is the key to that. And as soon as you hear that negative voice from someone that you're training, is like, no, you actually can. Stop saying you can't, you can.
We can always achieve more than we realize. We're always stronger than we are. And that's going to come up as well during the course of our conversation. I think something that you touched on when you were talking about Anne is that she loves to help other people as well. And because she was vulnerable and shared that was the way she could support other people and have them connect to her and realize, they weren't alone in the thoughts that you're describing. So it sounds like being in that group dynamic and that supportive setting really helped people as well.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's a part of being a trainer, unfortunately, can be a little bit hard for a trainer, but sharing your vulnerability, sharing, for many years, I thought that I had to beat everyone all the time. Like I put so much pressure on myself to beat everyone. I don't have to beat anyone. I just have to just do it. And, I was scaring myself so much so that I wasn't entering events anymore because I couldn't beat people all the time. It was crazy to think that I was going to beat people all the time. And why did I have to beat? And who cares? No one cares. So it's getting people to also understand that it's about the doing and enjoying and the celebration and being part of a community.
Yes, absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful answers. Um, which leads us on to another part of the film. One of the women, her name is Marika, and she's coming back from a knee operation. And we see in her training that she's rehabilitating that injury, which is incredible, and she's also manages to run the marathon. Can you talk about how you helped support her, and from when she came to you, through the kind of questions that you asked, through her exercise questionnaire, those type of things, how you built her base, how did you really support her through her journey?
Yeah, so Marika had actually trained with me for a few years before she'd had this knee replacement and before she'd actually signed
Okay.
up for the New York Marathon. So I actually knew her quite well. Um, but when she was having this knee operation, she didn't know when it was going to happen, but she was just hoping it was enough time for her to train for the marathon. So we sat down together and we explored what she could do. We really had to wait for the surgery to see what the result was. So as a trainer, we're always under the guidance of the health professionals. I can never talk over and above a surgeon or a physio. So the first thing to do for Marika was to go to the physio and find out what she could do, what she needed to avoid, and I had to ensure that she abided by that, because you've got to remember she is also with a group of people who are obviously already training, and it's really hard when you're seeing people go ahead and they're up to 5, 6, 10Ks, and she's still back at the beginning. So I think the biggest thing for me as a trainer was keeping her supported and telling her it was okay and that she would be okay, and to concentrate on what she could. So we got her to concentrate on her diet, so she kept feeling really well. We got her to do all the exercises that the physio was doing. The physio was great, and there's actually a moment in the film where Lauren's with Marika, because she was instrumental in getting Marika to the start line. So it's as was her family, as you know, there's lots of people involved, so it's not just me. So it's about incorporating all of that into a plan for Marika. So she came out to my outdoor fitness sessions as well, and she concentrated. Marika's strength is actually her strength. So we got her stronger, and she was feeling really good about herself, and she always stands out in a class because she's really strong. So I can bring her into that and make her leave feeling good. So it was about really concentrating on what she could, and then adjusting the plan as we could, working with the physio. And I was under the guidance of that physio, as was Marika, and she shares that journey through the movie, which is great, you know. And there's a moment in the movie where she actually gets to her 20Ks, which is fantastic. You know, it was such a, oh my goodness, you are going to do this moment. It was such a aha moment, because for Marika, there were so many obstacles for her to even sign up for that marathon, including that knee. But the knee actually was pretty small in comparison to the other obstacles she had. So she's a really, really strong woman. So she found lots of things about herself, and she has through her exercise. And it's been a real pleasure and an honour to train Marika. And I think I've trained her now for 17 years, and she's still with me today. And I've seen all the changes in her life and been with her through so many obstacles, and particularly this knee injury, and getting her to an overseas marathon and to that finishing line. You know, and I think that's what we are privileged to be a part of someone's life. So I always see it as an honor when someone trains with me. And they always say thank you to me, but it's not, I always turn around, it's not thank you to me. It's I always thank them for choosing me and honoring me to be a part of their journey. Like I feel really blessed and you know, that they've entrusted me. So, you know, it's collaborating with their other health professionals, and really not taking it all on myself. It's a much bigger world than just the two of us. It was having the support around us.
That's wonderful. You really touched on, these women's lives have changed, and during the course of their training, they achieved things they might have thought they couldn't achieve. For example, with their job. Do you want to talk a bit about that as well? Once they saw from their training, they had their confidence boosted and they were doing really well and they were really achieving things. What else did they go on to do besides the marathon?
Yeah, so I mean, as many of the people watching, probably see people's lives changing all the time, because I believe the foundation of happiness is actually feeling good about yourself, and that involves exercise and being confident in yourself, and then that catapults into all different parts of your life. So for these women that were in the movie, a lot of them, well, like Manamara Ali, had never exercised before. So when she started exercising, it was doing it really slowly with her to build her confidence. But as she signed up for the New York Marathon, she then had to change different parts of her life. So she had to change her food, she had to change her social life, and she became healthier and started feeling really good. And all of this, and it's like magic, it's like, sometimes I think of it like a butterfly, like you blossom, like you just see these people blossom. And that's why the movie was created too, because I wanted to show people this is what happens. It's incredible. It's magic. It's the most amazing, incredible thing that I've ever seen. And Namara Ali, through the movie, and she was very vulnerable because we gave the choice to the people. We said, if you can start documenting yourself. Now, we were really lucky to get these people because obviously they didn't know if they could get to the finishing line at this stage, particularly someone like Namara Ali, who was carrying a lot of weight. And she'd never run and she'd never exercised. She was housebound at that time. So she was at home with 3 young kids. She was full of anxiety and, she really didn't want to go outside of the house. It changed her life. It changed her life. She started working with other Aboriginal women who were in vulnerable positions. So and she was working with their children, and so she was using the positivity that she was getting, and she was going into work, and she was becoming a role model for all those people around her. In fact, she, I think at the end of the marathon, about a month or 2 later, she got a number of her work staff who had never exercised, and she did a triathlon with them, and she encouraged them to do that, and she encouraged healthy eating at her workplace. She encouraged, she's a great role model to her children who are now at state level in volleyball. So it's not just the effect that it has on that person, but what it has, this huge domino effect on so many other people. So I think it's such a wonderful thing that we can do in the community by affecting one person. And then take, for instance, Marika. So Marika, she was at home. She actually had a really messy divorce, and this comes through in the movie as well. And it was a really awful time for Marika. And for me, I had been training for Marika for a long time, and she was financially really stuck. But the joy of having your own business is that you can help people when they really need it. And I helped Marika by providing exercise. I knew she needed exercise. I knew she needed her health as she was going through all this messy stuff that she was going through. And I knew she'd never take me for granted or take advantage of me. So, I gave her free fitness, and she did things for me in return, and she, helped me clean my equipment. So it was certainly a nice reciprocal relationship. But in return, what she got out of it is that she's now a police officer. She turned her whole life around. She'd never studied before. And now seeing what's happening with her children, her kids are now police officers and doing different things and going. So, it's not because of me, but it certainly helps when you can give people the gift of exercise and health and share your knowledge and share what it does for you. I'm so passionate about health and fitness. I love it, every minute of it, and I feel so blessed that I work with so many people around the world now with my online programs, my outdoor fitness, and now I'm taking people in Adventure Time Travel. I mean, last week we put New York out there and we sold out in 3 hours. I love that I'm doing all of this and it changing people's lives.
You absolutely are. That was, you were talking about Marika and wanting to be a policewoman, such an impactful part of the documentary. She's talking about she always wanted to be in the police force, and she was chatting to someone in the group of, women that were training, and one of them said, well, hey, I'm a police officer. They're taking people at the moment. You're clearly fit enough. Let's go and join up. And she did.
And she didn't ever think she could, but when this Leonie had said it to her, she was like, do you really think I could? And it was Leonie's belief in her. So, it's also that connection with people, so Leonie's like, yes, absolutely you can. And then Leonie mentored her too. So, it's just all these relationships. And I think that's the beauty. What the first question you said, how do you convince someone? You don't convince, but you can actually make people, these groups and connections and accountability. My groups, I have lawyers, doctors, I have grandmas, I have all types of people all in one group together, and they just share this stuff, and they would never ever be together in any other circumstance.
Yes, that's the beauty of the group training. Absolutely. We have talked about Marika, and she was going through a difficult time. Another impactful part of the documentary is that she was losing weight, and you did speak to her about that she wasn't looking healthy, and that really got her in the mode of thinking about her circumstances, and she knew she needed to change things to get on a healthy trajectory. Can you talk a bit about that circumstance?
Well, that was a really fine line because she was actually going through this really difficult time of a divorce, and she had 5 young kids. So I had to be really careful with how I treated or how I said the words because I'm not a dietitian. And she really clearly needed someone to come in because that's not our role. But I did know that, we were doing some hard sessions and I couldn't have her passing out on me. I actually had to let her know that I didn't feel safe. There's times when you have to tell people, look, I don't feel safe. You need to get a doctor's certificate out here for me because you're not safe. I'm not safe. So I did have a chat to her and I said, Marika, look, I really feel like you're not looking really healthy and I think you really need to be eating more. And it was horrible. And I think she said in the movie that I told her that she just couldn't train with me anymore. I can't remember saying it that blankly to her, but that's exactly what she perceived I'd said. And she said she snapped at that moment and she said, oh, Anna's just told me I'm not looking healthy. I've got to do something. So she did go out and she just changed. I think it's moments in people's lives, and that was a moment for her. And I think we often have moments with people when we're training people that we've got to be really careful with what we say, but we can change someone's mindset very quickly. And they go away feeling really good because probably their husband at home saying to them, oh no, you will never be able to do this, you'll never be able to do that. But yeah, so for Marika, it was actually turning it a bit, and it had a really positive effect on her. And I knew at home she had 5 kids that she needed to be healthy for too. So I couldn't have her going home and not being a mother as well, and she couldn't either. So yeah, thankfully we had that relationship, and she changed it all around, and that's when she snapped and she found Leonie, and all those positive things came into her life. So it was about supporting it. It really is that fine line of being in someone's personal life and not. But for Marika and I, we actually are friends, and she's trained with me for 17 years, so I regard her as one of my best friends now. So we do have a different relationship than you'd usually have as a trainer and a person that you just meet.
Absolutely. And as you said before as well, you've got a really good team of people around you, professionals that you can also go to for support and advice, and you can always refer your clients to that team of people as well, which is terrific. So there is a lot of different ways of approaching and interacting people, and obviously referring if people need to. So
yeah, and that's a really good point because I was only talking to someone yesterday, and she was obviously needing someone to talk to, and she needed a psychologist. And it's telling people about mental health plans, that they can go to a GP, they can get, there's lots of access for people to get information. So you don't have to do that. I don't, some of my sessions, I have another trainer, and she's quite emotional. And, some people start telling them their stories, which can be really horrific, and they'll start breaking down and crying. And I had to talk to my trainer and say, we're not here to do that. We're here to make them feel good. If they want to talk to someone, they need to go and pay someone for an hour. They're not here. We're in a group session here. We can listen, but we have to move them on, and we have to make them feel better. So our job is to get them fitter and healthier, and then someone else's job is to do their planning and whatever they need as well. So we can't be everything.
Absolutely. No, wonderful, wonderful answer. We really shortly want to hear from everyone with their questions. I have one to finish on. A really big theme we've talked about today is that you're always stronger than you think you are. And that was another part of the film that really stuck out to me when Namarali said she was trying to do push-ups and she said, I'm so weak. And you said, no, you are strong. And that really stayed with her. And she said, actually, you know what? I can do this. And that really propelled her forward. That was such a wonderful moment. if you want to talk a bit about that, and also, was there anything that has surprised you about this journey that you've been on with your clients? Something that caught you a bit off guard, or just elaborate on your experiences. We'd love to hear more.
Sure. Yes, and we are always so much stronger than we think. So there's that fine line as a trainer because you want to push people. And when I started outdoor fitness, I had previously done a boot camp where they yelled and screamed, but that wasn't authentic to me, and I wasn't going to do that. And thankfully, I didn't, because in one of my first sessions, one of the girls said she had a migraine, and we were doing this hard hill work. And thankfully, I stopped her. I didn't scream at her because she actually had a brain bleed, and I'd driven her home. So thankfully, she had gone home. I didn't scream her to do more. So there is that fine line of finding where we are stronger, but it's having to listen to your client, because often they know their bodies more than you. So if they're feeling like they've got I had someone the other day saying, I've got a sore shoulder, I don't want to do that. I said, don't do it. Just don't do it. There's no reason to do it. Do your legs today. We'll just do legs, because there's obviously a reason why she doesn't want to do that today. And I never want to put people in dangerous positions, but we are always stronger than we think. So I think that's the really important thing about sitting down with people and ascertaining where they're at, their history, what their health is like, what their injuries are like, and how far you can push them, and understanding their motivations and purpose. So why they're doing it. And always honing in on that motivation and getting other people involved into that. So yes, we are always stronger than we think, and it's wonderful when you get people to do things. And most people say to me, I never thought I could do anything like that. It's only because you gave me the opportunity and believed I could. So that's great. And I've only achieved 30 marathons because I've got my clients pushing me along doing it. So I'm very lucky. There's no way in the world. I can't even think that I can run 30 marathons. Even when I line up at the start of a marathon, I never think I can. And usually I'm so busy organising the 100 people that I've brought that I don't even think about my marathon. So I'm quite lucky because I don't have to think about it all the time. And then I run it and I go, oh, I just did that. So, and we are always stronger. What surprised me and what continues to surprise me is how strong this negative voice is in our minds. So at the end of the movie, they're all asked, are you a runner now? And it makes me a little bit sad to hear that they say, I'm not a runner. And they've just run a marathon, which astounds me. So that surprises me all the time. So that also tells me that as trainers, we have to constantly remind people that they can do things, they can do things, they can do things. Concentrate on what you can. And the other thing that surprised me was, I didn't know if my mum could make it to the finishing line. But the good thing with my mum was that we set realistic expectations. We knew that she could just go off the course at any time and she'd be happy with that. She'd be happy to catch the train to the finishing line. So people surprise me all the time. And there was one lady who rang me last year, who rang me to come to the New York Marathon. She wanted to enter the New York Marathon. Well, she didn't want to enter the New York Marathon. She rang me and she said, my husband wants to go the New York Marathon. I hate running and I really don't want to do it. Do you think I can? I said, no, absolutely not. I don't want to talk myself out of business, but you cannot run a marathon if you don't like running and you're not motivated to do it. Please don't sign up. Because as a trainer, it's really exhausting to have someone who doesn't want to be there. So I never convince anybody to be there. That's going back to that first question, which I think is a great question, because if they don't want to be there, it affects everybody else in the group. It affects me. It's really exhausting. Anyway, she turned around this conversation and said, well, I could walk it. And I said, well, are you happy walking it? She said, oh yeah, I'd be really happy to walk it. Because I told her that I didn't think she should, she then reversed it all on me. And then by the end of the conversation, I said, oh, well, yeah, absolutely, you could walk it. And yes, and obviously she wanted to go with her husband and her son. So by the end of the conversation, I said, yes, that's great. But I didn't want to be convincing her of something to set her up for failure. Anyway, she completed the New York Marathon last year, and she ran the whole way with her husband and son. And she has now signed up for the Berlin Marathon with me. So she's now a runner and she loves it. So once again, it's people will surprise you, but it's actually listening and making sure it's their motivation and they have the motivation to it and they're committed to it. Yeah, not me, not coming from me as the trainer.
Yes, and that leads in so well to what you said earlier in the webinar, which is people need to find their purpose, and that will help them, achieve their goals, which clearly that happened, which is a remarkable story. So wonderful.
Yeah. I'm reading this book at the moment, Mariana, and it's about the Japanese people, and it's about different areas of Japan where some of the oldest people live today. And they say it's because of their health, and that one thing is that they never retire and they always have a purpose. So, purpose, finding purpose for all of us is what gets us out of bed. So how can we motivate these people to get out of bed? I don't know, I was reading yesterday in 2016, there was 26 billion people who have obesity. I mean, it's tremendous, it's a tremendous amount of people who just need to move, and they only need to take small steps each day. So when people sign up for a marathon with me, I said, don't focus on the end goal. Let's just focus on getting to 2Ks. Just scrub out the whole thing. It's small steps, small steps. Excellent, big wins, 2Ks, you've done it. Excellent. Let's sit here for a while until you feel really confident in your 2Ks. Let's get to 5Ks. Fantastic. Celebrate. Get everyone around to celebrate. So it's all about that celebration and, enjoying the journey. One of the best clients I've ever trained, and she's my running partner actually, is Chantel Peacock. I'll just end with a story on her because she's amazing. And she started with me, I think in 2010. She said, I can only join your program for 6 weeks. I said, oh, no worries, because she was at home with her little kids. Anyway, after 6 weeks, she signed up again, and she was at the back of the group, back of my group. And the first event she entered into was the City Bay, which is a 12-kilometre event here in Adelaide. She walked, ran it, she celebrated, she was amazing. You could walk it. Most people could walk it as fast as she walked around it. It was fantastic, huge celebration. She thought she was fantastic, and she's just moved on, and now she's one of the best marathon runners amateur runners in Australia, really. So she's inspired me, and which has inspired lots of people. But the one thing about Chantel is that she always celebrates. She doesn't care where she came, she doesn't care what she does, but she's always resetting goals with me and seeing how she can do things better. So, and not seeing it as a failure, seeing everything as a learning. So that's, for me, as well as a coach, is learning. There's no failure. If I don't do well in my marathon, what did I do? Telling my, it's just about enjoying the journey and learning about yourself and getting people to be inquisitive and curious about their own health and fitness and enjoying it, rather than you have to do this, you have to do that. You don't have to do anything. There's so many ways you can get to the end point with anything, and there's so many obstacles that you will face along the way, and it's how you navigate those obstacles and you enjoy those obstacles. So for me, I've encountered so many obstacles over my time as a trainer, and I felt very vulnerable as a trainer because I've had to show people, I had COVID, and then I couldn't get out of bed, and then I couldn't run, and, I had to tell people I was healthy and I didn't feel healthy, but I kept with my routine and everything I taught everyone else, and I kept with my goals and I kept on it. And I found I felt like I was, I was a hypochondriac for so many years because I was going to see so many doctors. And then it was found to me that I had narcolepsy, which answered so many different questions to me. And it really resonated with me. As I was going through it, I knew I was learning it for a reason. People always have something, and you just need to encourage them to keep looking, be curious, don't give up. There's no failing. Why is this happening to you? Why? Let's find another health professional that might be able to help you. There's always different health professionals. So sometimes my clients have a physio that they love, which is great, but they have a chronic injury like I do, and then you go and see someone else, and then it's fixed. It's just constantly inquiring. Don't give up. That's what I always say to everyone. Don't give up. Just keep going. Who cares? One of the other things is that when I came back from the New York Marathon in 2013, is I came I did a really good time, but I came back and my kids said to me, because it was all in the papers and things, and they said, where did you come? And I said, I came 5,546. They said, what? Why is everyone making a fuss of you? And I said, that's all you need to do, kids. You just need to participate. It's not about winning. So many things is about winning. You've got to win. You've got to be the best. You don't have to win. You don't have to be the best. You just have to participate. You just have to enjoy. Life is, short. Just enjoy it. There's no winners. There actually is no winners. It's just about you enjoying it. And inflicting that on your people so that they actually feel like, oh, well, there's no failing here. I'm doing it anyway. So, I've had lots of people run marathons in 7 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. I have people who are, 2.5 hour runners up to 7 hour runners, and they're all just as great, and they all just get the same medal, so anyway, that's
so many good things in there. I absolutely loved your answer. which takes us to our participants' questions. Someone asks, costs would be very high traveling overseas to run a group marathon. Could you tell us about what the financial costs are?
Sure. So that's that. There is financial cost. So with Adventure Time Travel, my background before I started fitness was event management and marketing, and I used to take events. Run events all around Australia and overseas. So I basically melded, and I had a marketing degree. So I've just basically melded all my knowledge into one business, which is Adventure Time Travel, which I love. And basically, they are packages, and they do cost money. So they range from 3,000, I think, for an overseas holiday, up to 5.5 if you're traveling by yourself. So it is a cost. For me, I personally, I qualified for the Boston Marathon in 2012. I had no money. I didn't know what I was going to do. My kids were young. My relationship, that when you have young kids, it can be a bit rocky. So I had a really rocky period, but I knew there was only one opportunity for me to do the Boston Marathon. I might not qualify again. So, I found ways. I went to the markets. I sold my clothes that I didn't want anymore. I baked, and I sold those there. I found ways and means of doing that for myself. And I know it's costly for people, but there are ways and means, and there are people to support you in your endeavours. So I had Chantel, we'd both qualified for Boston Marathon. And, if you really want something, then people can generally, I'm not saying that everybody can do it. And, probably the area I am in is quite privileged. And certainly, if I would like to have an area where I could raise funds for people that didn't have the ability to go overseas too. So, as a trainer, I'm trying to find those roads. There are councils that support as well. So in my own work, I find that I can give programs away, but I certainly can't do that for overseas. But, I've had people like Marika who had no money. There's always a way to do that if they want it, if they're motivated, if they really want something. And as we've talked about, it changes someone's life incredibly, not just for that year, for their life. So it's actually a really small investment to the bang for your buck, really. But you can't convince someone. It's showing people.
Absolutely. And another question we have, would you recommend running straight away to someone who's never exercised? Do you consider injuries, age, health issues, and do you do pre-screening, which we touched on earlier?
Absolutely no, I would never, ever tell someone to just go out and run out the door. No. I do online programs for beginners, and I train people in person, and they always start walking and strength. So strength training is really important to me, particularly for beginners, because if they don't have the strength, or if they're carrying too much weight, it is a serious risk of injury. So it is that pre-screening, it's talking to people, it's listening to their history. And my beginners program is actually 12 months. So 12 months to get to a marathon for a beginner is a very long time. So I can run a marathon in 16 weeks, from starting, because I'm where I am and I've done exercise. But for a beginner, 12 months is basically they start walking. They start, like I said before, they start getting a routine. So it's just getting them outside the door 3 times a week, walking, finding that they're whole in their week. So it's definitely not about just sending someone off for a run and saying you've got to do 2K. So they run, they walk, and then they might, basically the program is all about being easy, so that they get to there and go, oh, it's easy, that's easy, oh, that was easy. So each week it's like, oh, that was easy. So it's easy. I make it really easy for people, even when they're in week 32. Oh, that's easy. This is it. It's got to be easy. And I always say, stop while it's easy, because that's when you're not going to hurt yourself. If it starts to become hard or you're fatigued, stop. If you're tired, do not do the next day. So it's about assessing that and teaching them. So in my online program particularly, I've got a lot of health professionals in there. So I've got a lot of videos of health professionals giving advice about strength training, what they should be doing. And then within the program itself, it talks about the walking. Don't go any faster. If you think you're going too fast, you're going too fast. If you think you're going too slow, you're not going slow enough. So that's always my model. It's slow steps. Take slow steps. All right. You can't sprint before you walk. You can't crawl before you walk. You have to crawl. And that's even managing people out at fitness sessions. It's always interesting, because people in their heads might have been a sprinter when they were younger, and they come in and they think they can sprint again and their hamstrings are gone. And so it's about like saying, no, this is an hour class. It was also interesting. Another one was that I was training a lady last year for the New York Marathon, and she was an 800-meter runner when she was younger, and she had been running 10Ks before she came to me. And what happened with her is that she thought she could run faster than she could. So I was always saying, no, just slow down, slow down. Anyway, we did the Clare Half Marathon, and I was going slower because at the time I was having, quite a few health issues. So I was behind her, and I saw her at the 10K mark because it was a turnaround, and she had just done her PB for 10K, and I could see that she was suffering. And I was like, oh no, this is not good. She's just, everything I've said to her has just gone out the window. She's just gone fast, flat out. Anyway, I got to the 18 mark, and guess who was on the floor? She was, and she was hospitalized. So the next half marathon that I did it with her. I said, right, we're going to run this together. And every time I touch you on the back, you've got 10 burpees when we finish. So I think she ended up with about 500 burpees, but she certainly got the time that she wanted. And it was much easier than she thought. So it's about pulling people back.
Absolutely. So, and building their base, as you said, building their strength, and ascertaining, doing that screening, the pre-exercise questionnaire, finding out what's going on with them, what you need to work on, all those things.
And talking to them about recovery and how important recovery is and rest. So, I was talking to someone yesterday, and, he's got he's only got 3 toes and he's had diabetes, and he thinks he has to run every day. And last year he couldn't get to the New York Marathon because he just wouldn't listen. He was running 15Ks 3 times a week from nothing. And I'm like, you can't do that. You have to bring people back. And this time he's saying, oh, I'm just doing 1 kilometer a day. I said, you don't have to run every day. Stop. Just do it 3 times a week. Just build up one slowly. I've coached other people who've been in hospital 6 weeks before the New York Marathon, and she tore a tendon. And there's other ways you can train people. And she ran the New York Marathon because she listened. So it's all about getting them to listen to their body and let them know that it's okay, that it's not like this. It's really not linear. Nothing's linear. You have to navigate, or you get yourself in trouble and injuries will prevail. You cannot go past your body. Your body's always going to win.
Absolutely. Very, very good advice. Unfortunately, we are running to the end of time. I could talk to you for hours. We do have a couple more questions, but what I'm going to do is I will send them to you, Anna. We'll get them answered, and we'll make sure people do get those responses because they're really important questions. Every question really counts. So just like to thank you, Anna, so much for coming along today and inspiring us and motivating us. And I feel very inspired. I feel like I could sign up for a marathon. So
thank you so much for having me. And it's, a real pleasure to share information. If anyone wants to ask me questions, I'm happy to take phone calls. I think we have a really important role in our society, and we can't underestimate what we're doing. So congratulations to all of you for inspiring your clients too. And thank you for having me, Mariana, at this webinar today.
Wonderful. Yes, I totally echo that, Anna. I think everyone in the profession, everyone on this call has such a huge role to play with helping our community and really giving back and making the world a better place. So thanks everyone for coming on and being part of this conversation as well. So wishing everyone all the best, and we'll see everyone soon.